So let's begin with week 3 of the second precept of, just for today, do not anger. And the first week we spoke about anger, if I remember correctly, it was the anger is really a secondary reaction to injustice, unfairness, feeling hurt. It's a reaction that comes out. And then we went into that seething anger, that seethingness of that doesn't admit it's angry. Doesn't show it's angry, but really ruminates and festers. That's the word. That's why seething anger turns into disease more than reactionary anger. Because reactionary anger is kind of like better out than in, when you have an outburst. But injustice, unfairness, etc. But the seething anger, the underbelly of that can be jealousy, and it can be envy. Sorry, let me take this thing off of magic. He chews it and it makes a funny noise. So, you'll get it in a minute, sweetie. And this week I wanted to talk about anger as that seething anger that really is a mask for hatred. Yes, hatred. And, we can look at hate groups, and we can look at people that are hating on other groups, and that's also coming from jealousy and envy, rather than, hey, I wonder what they're doing that we can learn from. But there's another type of hatred that has been, and I think we're in the age of hatred, in the sense of, in the 90s, there was a lot of things about anger management, and people had to go in anger management classes. I think now people have to go in hatred classes, hatred management. But sometimes we don't realize that we're hating. And, we can't talk about hate without talking about Taylor Swift, right? Are you a hater? When she was, haters gonna hate. Shake it off. Shake it off. Remember that song? And that generation, I don't know what generation it's called. I don't want to get it confused. I think it's millennial. They were very swift at calling out the haters. They were like, oh, you're acting like this towards me because you're a hater. You're hating. And it was slightly diluted because hatred before, groups of people, anti-Semitism, had seen what hate had done, throughout the ages, not just World War II. Jewish people have been dealing with anti-Semitism for thousands of years. So that hatred we understand historically when, a family's doing good, someone's doing good. You maybe remember it from your grandmother's generation of don't let people know, because they'll hate you for it. And then that hatred leads to basically murder, coveting. It leads to jealousy, envy, coveting, and then murder. That's the process. But I also wanted to talk about something else about hate that I think gets a pass. And I think it's so innocuous was the word that kind of came through today when I was thinking about this. It's innocuous. And it is, I hate I can't do something that someone else is doing. Now, that could be a yoga pose when you're in yoga. That's what yoga is all about, is to catch that thought form of, I'm hating that person I don't know can do that pose better than me. And it's that in yoga, that's a good thing for you to be able to catch that thought by the tail and be like, oh, there we are. We're in our comparison spiral. And this is very, this is something that you see, those of you that are mothers out there, you see that with your toddlers, right? When you see the toddlers doing stuff or having something, a toy, a ball, or whatever, and another kid comes along and snatches it from them because they hate that they've got their toy or something that they don't have. And that's what you're kind of navigating in kindergarten. Well, if that doesn't get processed out of the children, which I don't think it is processed out, I just think it's thrown under the carpet, we then get what you know very well as the mean middle school environment when the hormones come online, which sometimes don't leave people. Yeah, I mean, they're still hormonal, and also in that kind of competitiveness of, I hate that I can't run as fast as that person. I hate that I can't cheerlead like them. I hate that I'm not as good at art as that person. I hate. See, it's very subtle, but it's still hating. And then there's the other one, which is, I hate. I don't have what they have. And that might be a skill, that might be looks, that might be charm, that might be a personality, that might be a confidence that you don't even know if the person's faking it, just trying to live their best life that day. I hate that they are so prolific. I hate that they've got more followers than me. They get more comments than me. I hate that. And I think it's and that's why I say it's innocuous, because it's just so, it's like a ghost. It kind of comes in and out. And sometimes when you catch that it is, I hate I can't do something, or I hate I don't have what they've got, as maybe a feedback to yourself to say, wow, I didn't even know that I wanted that. I didn't even know that I wanted to, say, improve my scorpion pose, or I wanted to get a new car. Right? I hate that everything seems to come easy for them, but you don't know that. But maybe that's their mindset, and maybe you hate that you don't have that mindset. But instead of hating on being a hater, you're kind of turning that full circle back to yourself and say, wow, I didn't really know that that's information for me. It's informative for me to say that that's what I want. That's what I want to be in that alignment. I want to go a little bit deeper in my practice. I want to have a new car. So what is it I need to do? What does that need to be to have that car? What is that I need to research? Because maybe you can have the car, but you just don't realize that you can get it somewhere else, or someone can help you with that. And sometimes it's being less neurotic. I wish I was much more joyful, and I hate that I can't let go of my anxiety. But maybe it's that you hate that you are tethered to this mindset, and that you are controlled by it. And why are you controlled by it? Where is it coming from? Where does it flag? Where does it come up? What situations? Where can I collapse it? Where can I take a notebook to look at my anxiety and unpack it? What is it informing me of? I hate that what are some of the things that you hear? Let's have a convo on this. And maybe it is with your children as well. Because, I mean, this doesn't change out of middle school. People are still hating on their neighbours and hating on whoever. But it's being able to internally catch it and go, okay, this is just information. This is just telling me something that I didn't process or don't know. And if I just allow myself to be like, oh yes, I too wish I could be, you know, in that vibration or in that realm. But here's the other thing that I hear in that aspect is, well, you know, I wouldn't do it the way they're doing it. I would do it completely differently. And then you have a whole opinion about that because you hate how they're doing it. You hate how they're spending their money. You hate how they're living their life. But rather than saying, oh, that's right, I want to have that freedom to make my choices, that other people will judge. And be in alignment with that. Because really it's about freedom. Hating people living free. Which is, you know, people who are, you know, doesn't matter if you like the way they dress, or you like how they're doing their hair, or you like how they're, you know, you're hating on the purple hair stuff, you're hating on the pink hair, you're hating on it. That's, and sometimes people get really angry about it. And then yesterday I put up this quote. I mean, I'm paraphrasing now, but it was really about spiritual quotes. And in how spiritual quotes are engineered for a spiritual practice. So when we start to use spiritual quotes in self-help in a secular setting, those can be throwouts. But that throwout is going to come back to you because you threw it out. So let me give you an example of that, of the very famous saying, which is anger is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. And that quote is not a self-help quote. That's from Buddhism. That's the Buddha. And we know from last week that seething anger is like drinking that poison. And there are some people that just drink the poison. And they keep drinking the poison because they're used to the poison. They like the taste of the poison. It is all they know. And you're never going to change that. But for you, now knowing that that is in Buddhism, that drinking anger is like drinking the poison, expecting the other person to die. You're so mad at that person. You're so angry that they did that unfairness, that injustice. And then looking at that unfairness and injustice and saying, okay, where was I in my mindset that trusted that person? What was it about my mindset? What was it in my space? Was I desperate? Was I enamored by that person? That's why I trusted them and then they stole from me. Or I knew that I needed to do this on my own and I decided I wanted to do it with a partner. And I just chose this person because they were a friend, because I was too scared to do it on my own, and I'm angry at myself because now they've tricked me. You know, there is a story of Martin Luther King. When he grew up in the South, when he went to Boston, is when he really saw the injustice and the unfairness in the system. And he knew that he needed to go, and I'm pretty sure he was studying law, and he knew that he needed to go back to the South to change and dismantle the system and, you know, and do his work there. And these are the things, you know, you can see injustice and you can get angry at it, or you can get angry and fester, or you can get angry and activate. And that's what we see about, you know, I can't remember the name of the group. It's like Moms Against Guns. And, you know, we see when people have lost loved ones and they create foundations and charities in their name for grieving parents, or, you know, and they look at the system. So these are people that are getting into action. These are people that are using their tragedy, using the injustice, using things that have happened to them as not the end, but the beginning of something, the beginning of a chapter, the beginning of their processing of this devastation. And the anger becomes like a catalyst, right? That anger at the injustice, that anger at the unfairness becomes a propellant, you know? And that's what I want you to see this week, you know, and it's a much more subtle anger we're talking about this week of that. I hate that I can't do that. I hate that just happened for them. I hate that they always get what they want, you know? I watched a video, it was a few weeks ago, but it always kind of stuck with me, and it was a woman who had bought her daughter a Tesla. And I mean, she was only 18, and the mother filmed her and she put her on Instagram, and or maybe it was TikTok, and she was shouting at her mother that she knew that she hated the Tesla. She hated it because she knew fine well she wanted a Mercedes, and that she hated the Tesla. And the woman was narrating at the end of the camera like, wow, I can't really believe this, that you're refusing the Tesla, but okay. And she was just filming what was happening, which was a complete outburst of this hating of this brand of car that she wanted, the Mercedes, because the Mercedes maybe said something about her, that said something about her pecking order in her group, or the pecking order that she wanted in her group. But what that really kind of looked like. But she was, you know, the girl was owning that she hated the Tesla, and that she hated that her mother bought her it, and hated everything about it. Now, you can call that ingratitude, you can call that ungrateful, you can call that unappreciative, you can call it vile, you can call it a lot of things. But that anger that she exhibited was really a kind of place of being that lost, that we feel like material things are going to increase our value, or our perceived value in the pecking order of society. And, you know, Mike Tyson said something really recently. He said, if you want fame and you want success, you better be careful that you are only in it for that, and that when you get to the top of your mountain, it's not Plastic Mountain. Because you'll get angry at yourself once you get to the top in Plastic Mountain, that I got all here, I put all this work in, and I'm still unfulfilled. I still feel like that person from wherever. When we're chasing those things, and then we hate that we've chased those innocuous things. So these are just kind of like exercises in thought. Isn't that right, baby? Just little exercises in us to be able to think about anger and discuss anger and discuss hatred. And I'm putting a little book together that we'll post, a little box set, and we'll go through all the other precepts. But right now, this month is anger. The hate that I lose patience with my kids when they are when they overwhelm me with their needs all at once. How do you change your mindset in that moment? I hate that I lose patience with my kids. So you hate that you explode, right? You hate that you explode, and are explosive, you know, because, you know, the aspect that you hate is that you aren't this perfect mom that's from the 1950s that's making their lunchbox and sending the good children out to school. So this is this perceived notion of motherhood, of not the reality of being with hormonal girls, right? Which I know this person says she's with like 18 daughters. And vying for the attention, vying for mom, vying for, mom, tell me, I just don't know, I don't know, you know everything, mom. And I lose patience because I get overwhelmed, and in that moment, and I would say that you're angry at yourself because you have an idea, or you're trying to live up to this notion of being this mother that is this phantom of motherhood that isn't in reality. And really, you know, if you didn't maybe explode and you seethed about it and you pretended that it didn't bother you, you might have an autoimmune disease and possibly have cancer, you know, and that would be worse, right? That's the seething anger. So you lose your patience, you become explosive, rather than having maybe a round table with your daughters and say, you know, I don't like it. I'm getting angry with myself, and I don't really like to get angry with myself, that I'm losing patience. But I wonder if you can help me with that, and what you would actually do in helping me with that, and see what their solutions are, because it might actually surprise you what they'll come up with. That and then they are self-regulating themselves, rather than mom telling me not to speak all at once, and mom telling me to remember my lacrosse or my lunchbox or my everything, and and then there's this right? So how can you help me be more patient, or I will be the patient? And you know, what can you do to help me be really kind of less angry, you know, because that's what we're dealing with. And then see what the girls say. You know, they might be like, well, you know what, maybe I should, or write some notes to myself in the morning and do a checklist with my sister, you know, and not impose so much on you. Or maybe I don't want to grow up, I want to be mom, and being a teen, being responsible, it's just a bummer. We all know it. It's a bummer, right? When you start, you're like, oh, there's so much to remember. And sometimes just having, you know, a whiteboard or something on the fridge where everybody kind of like checks off, you know, remembering their cleats, remember their you know, their cheerleading stuff or their whatever, and kind of having like systems in place that can help everyone. And yeah, I mean, I know kids that do that, and they're 6. They're not 15. They're not 13. They just that's been weaved into them in a way of being participating, you know, in the family. But maybe you also, as a mother, you know, being explosive, you are kind of way over your head, and you have to admit that. And maybe you're angry at that. You're angry that you don't have the capability to handle everything all at once. And when you admit that, I think, to your children, and have that openness of like, this is too much for me, this is overwhelming, and it's and I have a reaction that is not pleasant for you and me, and then I feel bad afterwards. I think everybody gets to participate in how they can help, rather than just being down on yourself for having that reaction. So we're talking about anger here. But really, you know, and I think what you're talking about is that I'm hating that I'm not like these other mothers, right? I'm hating that I'm not like these other mothers, these perceived mothers that look like they have it all together. Or I think the problem with motherhood is you're all in this facade that it's not a struggle, you know, that it is, you're a human being, and it is a lot sometimes. So I think there's this secret society of, I'm kind of falling to pieces. I know because she's come to me. Right? So I know, like, the secrets, right? The secrets are, you're overwhelmed, I'm way in over my head, everything that's really postpartum. That then, you know, I don't want to seem like I can handle it, rather than the biggest thing for people, for human beings, in fact, is to say, I need help. I need support and I need help. And that's to do with gaslighting yourself. It's also to do with pride. It's also to do with society, you know, not being seen as, not being able to cope. And that can be some people's undoing. That can get into kind of like really gnarly situations. So anybody, you know, I've worked with veterans and them asking for help because there was deep shame. And I think what you're really talking about is deep shame of not being able to cope when everybody else seems to be muddling along. How do you know? They could be drinking. They could be going home from the school run and having a half bottle of Chardonnay. They could be going home and, you know, dropping like a Xanax. They could be going home and smoking some weed and sleeping the rest of the day. You do not know how people are coping, but everybody's muddling sometimes through. But I think if you ask and get honest, you know, I think if mothers really kind of got honest with each other, there wouldn't be this, what I perceive is through many mothers that I've worked with, this comparison and competitiveness. And I hate that I'm not like this person that looks like they've got everything all together, but you don't know that they've got 2 nannies. I hate that I don't have 2 nannies. Right? But rather than being like, oh, I really want help, I really want an assistant, or I really want a nanny, so I need to get my book finished and get it published. So, just stuff like that. Anything else on just for today? Do not anger. We're talking about hate. This week is the great week of hate. Anybody, anything else? Anything else, or do you think we've covered enough? That was a lot. That was a lot. You're not a hater. You're not a hater at all. Although when you pass those 8 chihuahuas, you become a little bit of a hater. Right? You do. You do. Anything else? Okay. Well, food for thought. I'll post it. I'll post it on the YouTube. You can have a listen and a read through what we're talking about, and yeah, this is life, guys. This is a spiritual practice. Just for today, do not anger is a spiritual practice. Anger is not a mental health issue. It is a spiritual practice of to look at where we have our own angers and our own jealousy, envy, hatred, that all comes under the umbrella of anger. But if we kind of like put it in the realms of psychology, that it's secular, it's something that we have to clean in our own spiritual practice. But most people will never know me. I don't have an angry bone in my body. I don't have a jealous bone in my body. You can't do anything with that. There's nowhere to shift. There's nowhere to move. If we don't admit. And those yogis out there, you know you're in that class and you're like, your eyes are bobbing around. And a real yogi learns to stay on their own mat. That's why a community class is really good, because you get to witness the witness part of you, the witness that comes up in meditation. It gets to witness that little gremlin looking around the room. Who's it better than? Who does it want to compete against? And be able to bring that attention back to your own mat. Focus and concentration. Back on your own mat. Back into your own field. Back. And that's what yoga is really for. The asanas are irrelevant. The practice is really about dying to the senses, the 5 senses of spiraling and comparison and narcissism. And staying on your own mat, doing the best that you can do. And if people think that you're fantastic and fabulous, that's nice for them, that you just did your practice on your mat. And if you were not great that day and you felt a little stiff and you felt like you had a rubbish practice, you still showed up. You did the best that you could do. It teaches you a level of humility. Because when you start doing real yoga for 90 minutes and you do a full class, you start to realize very quickly that there will always be a pose that you cannot do that you could be working on for 5 years. And there's going to be no rosette, and there's going to be no band applause, and there's going to be no statue at the end of it. So you let go a lot of anger in the class of not being able to do something today, or not being able to get into something, or hating. And that's a good thing. It's a good place for you to clean it out of your system to then be able to go out into the world less in the comparison spiral. And I think really that is that comparison is a spiritual practice, even though Teddy Roosevelt did say that comparison is the thief of joy. And he was right. It will kill your joy like nothing else. And so hopefully this was helpful. And I thank you, and tune in next Thursday for the last part. I'm going to go and feed the dogs. Okay. Good to see you all, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.